Hey, what's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guard3, and welcome to this week's edition of Sideline to Sideline. Now, before we get started, obviously we had a pretty big football game this past Sunday. Why don't we introduce you to the rest of the crew? Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we have the Prince of Production. He is Kyle Edwards. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm good. It was an interesting game. Obviously, like I said before, I wasn't one of those rooting for the demise of the Chiefs, but it's now become something to talk about. So we're here. But I'm glad to be back on. Talking to you guys. So it's all good.
Hey, fair enough. And of course, our resident Chiefs fan, I'm sure he feels quite a few different feelings about what came down on Sunday. He is Chase Riley. How you doing, Chase?
I'm good, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Good.
Jory's already referencing the bet from last week. Chase, where's
Absolutely.
the haircut?
It will be cut by next week's episode. It will be cut by next week's episode. I'm going as short as it. That was what I agreed to. I was going as short as Gardy.
Yep. Hey, we'll be twinning on the next episode.
There you go.
So yeah, why don't we just get right into it? Sunday we had a pretty big game, Eagles versus Chiefs, and the score, it was shocking, 34-0 at halftime, and the Eagles just dominated from start to finish. So I think the first question I have for you guys is what are your thoughts on the game? We'll start with you, Kyle. What did you see on Sunday?
I feel like what we saw was similar to like Pat's Giants, where you had a really good defensive front that was able to kind of wreck a lot of what the Chiefs wanted to do. And if you can do that, that makes coverage and everything so much easier, where you now have 7 guys out in coverage. And if the 4 guys are getting to the quarterback, like, you have a good recipe to be really good defensively. And that's what we saw. We saw Mahomes, under pressure most of the night. We saw him take more hits than we had seen in a while. He was off on some throws, which led to some turnovers, obviously. The Cooper DeJean pick 6 was a big play in that game. The interception deep in their own end. Like, we saw things that we hadn't seen from the Chiefs. So obviously that's why a lot of people are like, oh, what's going on? It's like, well, yeah, the Chiefs had a bad day, but a lot of that's because the Eagles were allowed to do so much because their front 4 could just, pin their ears back and get after Mahomes. Now, if you want to talk about, I guess, maybe the Chiefs should have mixed in the run a little bit more. I guess that's a conversation to be had, but even then, like, that front was just too dominant. And we were seeing the videos with like Travis Kelce being undressed on one side of the line. Like, there was a lot that was up against Mahomes in that offense to expect them to really produce in that game. So, you got to give a lot of credit to Fangio for his defensive plan. And yeah, like, that's kind of up. That's like all you can really say. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be one of those who are like, oh, the Chiefs are done, dynasty over. I'm sure they'll retool. They'll probably be right back in this position next season. But you just got to give all the credit to the Eagles and what they did on Sunday. And Hurts. I don't want to obviously gloss over their offense, because Hurts, I think, quieted a lot of critics with his performance on Sunday. Because a lot of people thought that they were winning like almost in spite of him. But he won MVP for a reason. Like, he looked really good. So I obviously want to shout him out as well.
Hey, that's fair enough. And Chase, I'm really interested to hear your opinion. I'm sure you heard it all. Mahomes is out of the GOAT debate. The sky is falling. The Chiefs are done. We've heard all the overreactions in the span of 4 days. So, Chase, what do you think about the game and just where the Chiefs are going forward?
Yeah. So, a couple of things really quick. I didn't get to, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. So I apologize if this does bring down the show. I didn't watch the Super Bowl on Sunday. I got some heartbreaking news. A friend of mine who's actually a year younger than me passed away Saturday night. A close friend. Sucks. Liver failure. It just, so like I said, didn't watch the Super Bowl Sunday. I waited till Tuesday to watch it. However, I did watch that halftime show probably 100 times on Monday, but I waited till Tuesday to watch the entire game. And there's a couple of things to take away. But I'm going to talk about the good things first. And we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the good things, right? To highlight what you just talked about, Kyle, if you like, and I'm gonna continue on like a little bit of a rampage like after we're done talking about that game, but like I heard yesterday some people talking about like quarterback positions and whatnot. Let's get it out of the way. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, right? If you don't have Jalen Hurts after those three, you're an idiot. I can't reason with you.
I've been waiting for this conversation.
You can talk about Joe Burrow's football IQ all you want. You can talk about any other quarterback all you want. After the performance that Jalen Hurts put on in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, the performance that Jalen Hurts put on the Super Bowl this year, it's undoubtable. He's there. Don't mention anybody else's name after Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. It is Hurts. It's Jalen Hurts. He is what the quarterback position has changed, guys. It is no longer about sitting in the pocket, poise, accuracy, and stuff. Because of, and I'll say it because I'm a Chiefs fan and a Patrick Mahomes fan. Patrick Mahomes changed the position, guys. It is now what you're doing in situations. You have to be a situational player. And tell me, besides Patrick Mahomes, who is a better situational player than Jalen Hurts? He is making plays out of nothing, and he is still throwing touchdowns. He's beating you with his QB IQ, with his arm, and with his legs. The conversation's over. Jalen Hurts is in the same conversation as the Josh Allen and Lamars. Don't mention Joe Burrow. Don't mention anybody else. It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
So the Philadelphia Eagles, their offense beat a fantastic Chiefs defense. Fantastic Chiefs defense. And part of that, a lot of that was Jalen Hurts' ability to get out of the pocket, make plays, extend plays, do what he needed to do. That was because of Jalen Hurts. As far as the defense goes, man, let me tell you guys something. And this is, again, this is a part of the Jalen Hurts conversation, but I'll say it about the defense. The Philadelphia Eagles organization, the Philadelphia defense, the Philadelphia offense, and Jalen Hurts watched the Chiefs win the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And then they said, okay, we're coming back. And they watched everything that the Chiefs did this year, and they watched everything that the Chiefs did at the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And Vic Fangio said, I am winless against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to beat him. Nick Sirianni said, I'm going to have these guys ready to play on Sunday. And they came to play, man. They did exactly what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in Patrick Mahomes' second Super Bowl. And they didn't need to rush 5. They didn't need to come up with these little cutesy blitz packages. They had 4, and they ran Tampa too high. They sent 4, and they ran Tampa too high. And I don't care if it was DeAndre Hopkins or Travis Kelce. Those guys weren't doing it. That's all there was. And part of that criticism can go to Andy Reid never being the guy to run the ball. Never. That was part of the reason he was chased out of Philadelphia, was because he wasn't utilizing Shady McCoy the way that Shady McCoy was supposed to be utilized. So he never utilized the run. And that's because there's offensive coordinators in the past few years that have done what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes want to do, and that is be throw heavy. And Philadelphia went in there and said, throw the ball. We dare you. Throw the ball, and we dare you. And that's what Patrick Mahomes wanted to do. And if I was Andy Reid, or if I was Clark Hunt, or Brett Veach, I would be sitting Andy Reid down, and I would say, we need to call Eric Bieniemy and do everything we can to get him back.
Yeah, well,
because
he's
Matt Nagy, not going to do it. Obviously, yeah, I know Bieniemy's not available, but this is why, if you go back and watch the AFC Championship against Cincinnati, that is why Eric Bieniemy was not welcome back. And I firmly believe that Andy Reid loves Eric Bieniemy, wanted Eric Bieniemy to have nothing but success, wants him to have a head coaching job. But they sat down after that AFC Championship, and he said, "Hey, either resign and go somewhere else, or we're going to have to terminate you." Because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes want to sling the football.
I got one thing to say about that. Yeet. No, listen. I could leave after that because I
did he actually leave, or
I'm back. But listen.
Oh, okay.
The funny thing is, the way I predicted the Super Bowl is, I know Andy Reid better than a lot of fans. Not Chiefs fans. They know him just as equally as well. I've seen how he runs his teams. He's really good at certain things. And what I know about Andy Reid is there's certain times when he's going to put the scheme before the player's actual talent. And I didn't know if that was the case here, but when I predicted my score, I wasn't far off. I said 38-20. People were like, you're out of your mind. No, the reason why I thought that, now it played out differently than I thought it was going to play out. I thought the Eagles would run the ball more, and I didn't think they would get a pick six and another pick off of Patrick Mahomes. I didn't envision that. But I did envision them scoring points later on because they had to go for it on certain downs. The thing about the Chiefs is they're always going to be a good team, well-coached, well-prepared. But people have a short memory, right? Before Patrick Mahomes got there, I remember Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and they look very similar to the Eagles in how they were run, how they were structured, and how he built his team. Andy Reid builds an excellent team, excellent organization. I bet you he's going to retool that offensive line. But the thing I saw with that is Pacheco being hurt. You know, Hunt is good, but they didn't have that outside edge with Hunt. And then running the ball, Andy loves to get away from running the ball. He did it every single time. He's a pass guy. And when that opportunity opens up, when they don't have the talent there to take the load off, well, lo and behold, here we go. The thing about that I heard everybody saying, and why I thought the Eagles had an edge, is they were saying, well, you just have to stop Saquon Barkley. But what they didn't notice is that when Jalen got hurt toward the end of the year with the concussion, Saquon wasn't as productive. Why is that? Because Saquon and Jalen need each other to be on the field, right? Because you couldn't just blitz Jalen, and he handled the blitz, because then you got to worry about Saquon taking it to the house. If you notice, he led the team in receptions. Why is that? He had to keep the defense honest. 6 catches, led the team. That's the most he had all year. He's usually a 2-catch guy. He had most of his yards on that one catch where he kind of had to bobble it, catch it toward the end. But obviously I'm thrilled, as you can see by the size of the hat on my head. But, you know, the Chiefs are a really good team, but I was not surprised because I felt like people were discounting Jalen Hurts' ability to pass the ball. And this is what makes me laugh about these ranking conversations. I put him at number 3. I go Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. Now, I know, Chase, you might disagree with me that on the Burrow part, but I'll swap out Allen for you. I'm still putting I'm putting Burrow at 2 for this reason. He's beaten Mahomes. He's Allen and
with
Lamar
Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, with a fantastic offense around him.
They had a good team. It was a close game. But the Eagles, you know what you got to do to beat the Chiefs? You can't let them play you in a close game. You can't do that. And if you do that, that's when they get you. You got to put them away, because you can't let them be close. And if they did that, the Eagles would have lost. And the Eagles remember that, right? Like, you can't make a mistake. They played a pretty flawless game. They remember that from 2 years ago. And the one thing I know about Jalen, that he's better than anybody else in the league, and people might argue with me on this, the dude's got like elite resolve and resiliency running through his blood. I've seen this guy be doubted through college year after year. in the pros, 4 offensive coordinators, people in his own city not believing in him. In the same year where he wins the Super Bowl, the year before, oh, I don't know if this guy could read a blitz. The year before that, I don't know if he really could pass. And trust me, I know my Eagles fans. I have season ticket holders and friends with. I know a lot of them. I know what they say, off the interwebs and all you want to say. And they doubted him. And you know what? I texted all of them at the game. I was like, I want you to get a shirt that says, I love black quarterbacks, right? Because I know why the doubt was there. I know why. Because they think it's a white guy that sits in a pocket that looks like Dan Marino. NFL has changed, my friends. And Patrick Mahomes, by the way, he's half black, but people don't want to count that for some reason. But his dad is a pretty dark individual, and he's an athlete too. He was a Major League Baseball pitcher. So the thing about this is, people have that bias in their head. And here's the thing, Allen and Lamar specifically, like you could talk to me about Lamar Jackson. I know Kyle's going to be on my side on this one. He cannot and has not made the throws that you've seen Jalen Hurts make in crunch time. He's not throwing outside the hash. He's not sitting in the pocket waiting for that play to develop. Okay. And that's why teams could take him out of the game defensively all the time. Josh Allen, maybe the most frustrating conversation I've heard post Super Bowl is, well, if you put this guy on the Eagles team, he would definitely win. I've had people tell me Baker Mayfield would have done the same thing with the Eagles team, which is hilarious. Maybe even Matthew Stafford. I'm going to tell you why they wouldn't have. And the reason why the guys that I say that would have won with the Eagles as their team and being the quarterback, Mahomes, obviously, Allen, and I also would put Burrow in there, but Mahomes and Allen specifically, maybe not even Burrow, because the Chiefs were going to blitz you no matter what. Okay, and here's the problem with that: you have to have the ability to have escapability in the game. Now, the difference there is, are they going to be afraid of the pass? And they had to make a choice. And the choice was stop Saquon and say, you're going to beat us with your arm. Well, guess what? 75% completion percentage. But the thing that matters is he had 11 rushes for 72 yards. And that is a big time stat, especially in a Super Bowl, because of what it does to continue to drive. Now, he had some short fields. So I say he would have more passing because of the turnovers he got. But game flow matters. And people don't want to think about that, right? They don't want to talk about the game flow. They don't want to talk about how things play out, why he only had 200 something yards. Well, if you're on a short field, you're going to have less yards, right? That's the way it works. Your defense showed up. And then I would hear, well, he had a great team. Joe Montana had tons of Pro Bowlers on all those Super Bowl teams he won. But people don't say, well, anybody would have did the same thing Joe would have did. And
Jerry Rice admitted to using Stickum after Stickum was banned.
Yeah, come on.
I don't want to hear no Tom Brady cheating. The NFL favorites. Yeah. Jerry Rice has openly admitted after the NFL banned Stickum, that dude still used it.
Yeah,
so we're going to talk about tarnishing Tom's rings, then we're going to have to tarnish Joe's rings.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Jory, the part of the reason they couldn't run the ball, though, is because they got behind by so much and you're forced to pass. And that's where a Chiefs defense or even the Eagles defense become even better, because when you become one-dimensional, even with a Patrick Mahomes and you got to pass, guess what? It's a lot easier to tee off on them and get turnovers, get QB rushes. Eagles work the same way. If the Eagles got behind, they might have been in big trouble too. I mean, it's just how the game works. But this conversation about Jalen, I've heard people tell me Matthew Stafford, give me a break. He wouldn't have got away from that blitz. He would have been in trouble. Matthew Stafford hasn't won since they played the Bengals, and Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls since then. What else does my man have to do to at least be considered top 5? I think he's top 3, because Lamar and Allen would get both their MVP trophies back for that Super Bowl MVP. That I know. And the reason why he got there is he beat the dude that they couldn't beat. He went in and beat Ric Flair. Guess what? They didn't beat Ric Flair, right? They were Terry Funk and Barry Windham and all those guys that nobody remembers. And the reason is because they didn't step up when it came time. Lamar doesn't show up in the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, Mark Andrews, that was his fault with that drop pass, that fumble. It got hit out. Great play by the Bills, but he had bad passes at the beginning of the game. And then Allen against the Chiefs, I didn't want to hear about the bad calls. He looked like dog shit in the first 12 minutes of the game too. And they stopped running the ball. So you got to have a balanced offense. I'm not going to go on a diatribe here, as I already have, much more further, but I just will say that For people to sit here and say, well, he just makes the top 10, you're not watching football. You're really not. I've had people say Jaden Daniels over Jalen Hurts. Let's see him do it 2 years in a row. I'd like to remind you of CJ Stroud, what he looked like year over year. And then when I anoint Jaden Daniels, you didn't obviously watch all the games because they almost didn't make the playoffs. They got two very lucky outcomes. The drop by Devontae Smith and the Hail Mary, which should have never happened. And they kicked butt in the playoffs, and good for them because they played above their heads. But at the end of the day, if you're a good quarterback and your offensive line isn't good, even if you're Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have a tough time. Nobody wins a Super Bowl with a bad offensive line. So when people say, well, they had a great offensive line, well, no shit. How many win Super Bowls with bad offensive lines? It's a rare feat, right? And that was my analysis. If you go back to the show before, I thought the hole was going to be their offensive line. I hit it right on the head. I know Andy. Andy is a very good coach, and he'll slot people in different positions. He did it in a ton in Philly, and he believes in his guys, but to a detriment. And I think he's been better in KC than he was in Philly because he's got a Brett Veach and other people he has to answer to, where we gave him full control in Philly. So for me, it was almost like redemption. I wanted to play the Chiefs because I wanted redemption from 2 years ago for Jalen Hurts. And you could see he talked about it, man. I love the way he carries himself. That dude wore it on his chest until he got back. And if you watch the game, people get too caught up in fantasy football stats, right? They really do. I'm a huge fantasy football guy. But you can't watch these games and say that, well, the dude's as cool as a cucumber. You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs are no slouch. And Steve Spagnuolo is he's a really good defensive coordinator, like all time. Like, he's been involved in some big wins. And I just think that the Eagles were game, man. They were hearing that three-peat stuff. They saw the Pat Riley story. I think that got up their ass a little bit. And guess what? I'm going to a parade tomorrow. So thank God. I didn't talk trash to you, Chase, because I saw what was going on. So I just gave my condolences. And I'm going to give them again. So I immediately went to talk trash, but I was like, you know what, man? I'm not doing that to him right now.
Yeah. Gina, one of y'all's followers said something like tagged me, like literally the Monday morning, and was like how you feel, or like this aged well or whatever. And I was just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. Sorry if that person's watching. I apologize. But yeah, shut up.
But yeah, you were having a hell of a week, so I couldn't really in good conscience talk any crap to you. I was like,
and I appreciate it. I don't mind the trash talking. Obviously given the circumstances, but like Gene says, wait 24 hours. Wait 24 or 48 hours. And I'm not, it wasn't sensitive. It wasn't super sensitive to me. Like, yes, of course I wanted the Chiefs to make history. I wanted the Chiefs to win 3 in a row. But like I said in the chat last night during Wire to Wire, 7 years as a starter and a defensive offsides penalty and a dropped pass away from being to 7 straight Super Bowls. I'm cool.
That's like, yeah. Right. I mean,
and the talk of Patrick Mahomes' demise.
That's crazy.
I don't want to make this a talking point. I don't want to do it too long on this show.
Insanity.
But any idiot out there that goes, oh, this is it. The conversation between him and Brady are over. Patrick Mahomes is 29. He's 3-2. When Brady was 29, he was 3-2. Like, let's shut up. Mahomes is, like I said, 29. He could go to the next 4 out of 6 Super Bowls and win 3 or 4 of those, and then the conversation is back on of who the greatest of all time. So,
by the way, to your Burrow point, I do want to say this, and I know this would spark controversy.
I'm done with
Burrow,
it.
But I want to support your point on this, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here. He would have made the playoffs if he didn't throw an ugly pick against the Ravens in overtime. Okay, and like they would have been in the playoffs. They have nobody to blame but themselves. Their defense was crappy, yes, but they were in position. And by the way, this same Eagles team where you want to value Burrow over Jalen Hurts, they limited that same team and they beat them, I believe, in Cincinnati. And it was Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow. So all I know is
I'm done with it. I'm so tired of it. I mean,
it would only get worse for you if somehow Joe Burrow became a Raider or a Charger.
I get it. Like, I completely understand. I was outrageous when I said it. And do I mean it exactly? No, but everybody talks about how great Joe's football IQ is. And I don't disagree. I think Joe has a great football IQ. Tony Romo had a great football IQ. I mean, no, I'm not saying that Joe Burrow is Tony Romo, but like, dude, you've got Jamar Chase, you had T. Higgins, you had Tyler Eifert. Like, no, these aren't superstar. Like those two guys aren't superstars like Jamar Chase is. Jamar Chase is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. And then you had a supporting cast around him like that. And it's still, but he doesn't have an offensive line, or the offense and the game plan. No, stop. I'm done.
Yeah, and the thing is too is where people got to give the Chiefs credit. And this is why I thought the Eagles could put the points up on them and put distance between them, is the thing that they have been missing. And I saw this developing when Rashee Rice, unfortunately, he got injured earlier in the year, is they don't have that deep catch-up threat. Now, Worthy's still coming along, but Tyreek Hill was a different animal, you know, and when they had Tyreek Hill, man, they could make some ground up quick, but they don't have that same gear right now. Now they're going to retool, and they might. Patrick's there still. He has the ability to do it. The arm talent's still there. But when I look at stuff like, Burrow, yeah, man, his ball looks pretty. He's been to a Super Bowl. Yeah, he's won in KC before, but there's only one other guy that's done it besides Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Oh, I'm sorry, Stafford too. There's 4 guys you could put in that category, and Jalen Hurts is now one of them. And I think to do some minute, I'm curious what Kyle and Brett think about where Jalen Hurts ranks now after the Super Bowl win.
I mean, it definitely is tough. Like I'm not.
I know he's going to be above Lamar for you. That's all I know. I know.
I mean, yeah. Look, if I have a game to win in the playoffs, I'm taking Hurts over Lamar any day. Like, I feel like once you get around like 3, 4, and 5, you can put him any way you want. But yeah, Hurts has to be over Lamar. I'm a Burrow guy, so I don't necessarily knock him too much. But based off of the 2 Super Bowls I've seen, it'd be hard for me to make a valid argument for Burrow over Hurts right now. That'd be a tough argument for me to make, because I've seen Hurts do it twice, biggest stage, and like I said when I first started talking, what Hurts did Sunday silenced a lot of people. It proved like his ability, because I feel like this whole season, like a lot of narratives are kind of building. It was the Sirianni isn't that good of a coach.
Where's Gene at? I want Gene to say Dan Campbell is not as good as Nick Sirianni right now. Where's Gene at?
But I mean, it was
I want my roses.
It was that narrative, and then like the secondary narrative was like, is Hurts really as good as some people think? Can he win the big one? That performance on Sunday, like, you can't question that anymore. So I think you guys said what? Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, something like that.
I said Mahomes, Burrow, Hurts, but I just think Hurts should be 2 or 3. I mean, I'm gonna have him at 3
I'm not
personally.
mad at that.
I'm gonna have him at 3. For me, people were like, he squeaks into the top 5. I'm not even mad at that. But there's a lot of people out there that I literally had conversations with people talking about Baker fucking Mayfield would have been on the Eagles and won. I'm like, you're out of your freaking minds. He led the league in interceptions. They would have blitzed their balls off. I watched him shit the bed against the Cowboys that were playing in a meaningless game for them. I watched the Buccaneers struggle against the Saints, who has nobody on their team in the last week of the season, and they just got out of there. And there's like Baker Mayfield could just get planted on the Eagles and he's going to win. That's the stuff that drives me nuts. Like, get out of here.
Yeah. So I do think when you're looking at Allen, Lamar, who obviously have MVPs at this point, yeah, I think you have to put Hurts ahead of them now with the Super Bowl and the second appearance, because those 2 guys haven't been there yet. So, yeah, if you have them 3 or 4, I could hear that. Yeah, I agree with you. If you, after what you saw Sunday, still had Hurts like, 10 or 8 or something like that, then you clearly just have a narrative you just want to continue and don't care what happens on the field. Because that guy, like you said, Godfrey, like pressure and everything doesn't seem to phase him. Even times where the Chiefs got after him and he, had to get out of the pocket, he looked composed. He took off and ran, or he made plays with his arm on the run. Like, I was watching that game because you guys know I love to watch games and then go, could Lamar have done that? There were several throws in that game where I was like, Lamar's not making that throw. He's just not.
He's not making that throw. No,
he's just not. Like, and look, a lot of this because a lot of Ravens fans love to talk on social media during a lot of these playoff games and everything like that. So that's kind of where my mind is. Was just like, yeah.
Bro, they think AJ Brown. If Lamar was on the Eagles, they think AJ Brown was reading a book. He'd be reading a whole damn encyclopedia on the sideline, right? Because he would go nuts. Because you have to live over the middle as a receiver, or you're gonna have to catch a contested ball, right? Like running a route doesn't matter. And so you can look at the route trees, man. I'm not making up. And by the way, I was a big Jalen Hurts denier, meaning I didn't believe in him until he showed it to me, right? Mm-hmm. After the first year, I have the receipts. It's on my podcast. And then I turned around. I said, nope, he's got the ball. I believe in him. I questioned some certain things about the blitz, but I just don't know what else. I mean, listen, let me just read you these stats real quick. Jalen Hurts of the Eagles is the only QB in NFL history to do all the following in any single game, regular or postseason. You can say that they're pulling stats out, whatever. Throw for 200-plus yards, rush for 70-plus, throw multiple TDs, rush for a TD, complete 75% of his passes, and average 10 yards per attempt per rush in a game. Pretty damn strong. And that's the type of quarterback you need to be, because if you're one-dimensional, I heard someone say Jared Goff could have won on the Eagles team. I'm like, are you at – and what – dude, he couldn't handle the Redskins. Are you kidding me? I'm like, it's just people play Madden too much. That's what you guys do. You play with your Madden, you play with your dicks and do your franchise modes, and you think that, your fucking Super Madden team is real life football. And it's not. That's what you guys do too much. Your little Madden tokens and cards you trade ain't real football, son. That's all I got to say. Brett, what do you think?
That was absolutely fantastic, by the way, Godfrey. I had a couple days to think about it because we actually talked about this like the date of the Super Bowl, and I was sitting on that night at Hurts at 5. He came into the season at 6 for me, just right behind Matthew Stafford, but now he's clearly jumped him. I think the highest I'm willing to – I think I would put him at 4. I think that Patrick Mahomes is still number –
That's a reasonable opinion. I have no problems with it.
Say Patrick Mahomes at 1. I still think I'd take Josh Allen and might get kicked off every show Kyle's on, but I would still take Lamar at 3.
I'd have to put Lamar over Allen.
No, that's fine.
I think that's a fair conversation there as well. Like Lamar Allen, wherever you put them, they're probably right next to each other. So yeah.
No,
I mean, they haven't beat Patrick Mahomes category together, so
I think 2 and 3 are interchangeable, and that's fine. But I would have those 3 over Hurts, and I saw those same conversations too, right? I shared that one to the group where I was like, "Oh, tried to list like 10 quarterbacks better than Jalen Hurts," and I thought that was just the most insane thing ever. There isn't 15 quarterbacks in the league that can do what Jalen Hurts did. I don't even think there's like 5 that could do what he did. What he did was special, and he's shown he's a special talent. He's kind of getting disrespected. In a way, he's almost kind of reminding me, he's almost like the Jason Tatum of the NFL, the way that everybody wants to discredit him so quick because he's on a super
Kyle,
team.
Of course, agrees with that.
Brett,
and,
he's getting carried. Back on the show, Brett. That's what I'm talking about.
So, and they use like that a way to disrespect him, but the reality is, what makes guys like Hurts and someone like Tatum so special is their ability to connect the team and bring everything together. Their versatility and being able to do so many different things for you is what brings it all together. So I think with Jalen Hurts, if you want to put him in the top 3, I ain't mad. If you want to put him at 5 and bump Joe Burrow back into 4, I'm not terribly mad at that. But anything outside of 5 is just absolutely disrespectful.
Yeah, the thing about Jalen Hurts last offseason, it's like Philly is a really great sports town, but they have this thing, especially with their football team, where they are constantly a prisoner of the moment. Gene was talking about that, and you see it with their coach. I still want listen. If you're out there and you think Dan Campbell's better, I'm glad that Sirianni got a chance to shit on you this weekend. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because he definitely quieted that conversation. If you think Dan Campbell's better, let's run it back next year and see where the Lions or the Eagles are at. I guarantee it's going to be a little bit different for the Lions. But I will tell you that when I look at Jalen Hurts, last year I heard stuff like he's not a good leader. And I keep bringing this guy up. Maybe this is the great white hope or hype for people still. Baker Mayfield, like the guy, he had a great season. He's rejuvenated his career, not taking anything away from the man. However, I would hear he's a better leader than Jalen Hurts. I'm like, all right, what has he done more than Jalen Hurts, and even in his short career? Oh, he won a playoff game. Okay, cool, great. He won two. He's, I would hear Jalen Hurts isn't a good leader. He can't get it done. And to me, man, in the NFL, you got to have some resolve. You got to have, some backbone. And Jalen Hurts has been getting doubted since Alabama. By the way, I would like to point out that Nick Saban is a total all-time great coach that made a bad decision. He said, you know what? I'm going to sit Tua for Jalen. Okay. When you look at that now, how far away are Tua and Jalen talent-wise? Light years. Okay. And he could have never been concussed and it'd still be the same conversation. So I just, he's been dealing with this his whole career. Then he went to Oklahoma. What did he do? He balled out there. He had, and my thing is when you look at even Eagle fans and my fellow Eagles fans, you guys are definitely bipolar when it comes to this. They love the backup quarterback. They're like, oh, we got to they'll never win with Jalen. You've been silenced now. I want you to bend the knee and say, that's my quarterback. All right. Eagles fans specifically, I want you to bend the knee now. Because guess what? The dude brought a chip to the city and we're going to a parade tomorrow. If you don't like Jalen as your quarterback, stay home. Stay home, my friends. I said I have relatives that would say that to me. And I was texting. I was like, yo, are you buying a Jalen Hurts jersey tomorrow? Like, I was talking mad crap. I wasn't a believer. And I became a believer because the dude proved it. I mean, I love a person that proves it, doesn't get mad and says, I'm taking my ball and go home. I love a person that just says, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to show you. And that's the thing I like about that guy. I mean, I'm impressed. Dude does not seem rocked by the moment, and he does not seem to fall off the boat from failure. I'll stop though. It seems like a Jalen Hurts love episode, but I'm just.
Look,
I mean, we got one game to talk about, so
Yeah, because I feel like when you look at Jalen Hurts, the thing that I feel like some fans probably knock him, maybe it's because he doesn't have as many like highlight reel plays as like Lamar. Lamar scrambling, breaking ankles, and all that kind of stuff. But what Jalen Hurts has is that calming presence. A lot of guys in Super Bowl matchups, like they become over anxious. They're missing throws wildly. Like Hurts didn't have any of that. And I feel like what we're going to start to learn is, Hurts may, boil your blood a few games in the regular season because you're like, what's he doing? But you get him into that playoff setting, he's going to start. I feel like he's going to start maybe proving that he might be one of the better playoff quarterbacks going around right now amongst the young quarterbacks. Because I feel like there's one thing to do well in the regular season, Lamar, Josh Allen, but you have to find that other gear in the postseason. And I feel like we haven't seen Lamar necessarily do that, or Josh. Jalen, I think Jalen just might just be a big game performer. And maybe he gets bored sometimes during a long regular season because he just wants to get to the end and then prove like what he is. So I'm with you. Like, I could understand people who maybe doubted him a little bit, but you can't really do that anymore.
Yeah, look, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, when you look at Jalen Hurts, and I watch a lot of football, but obviously I don't miss a single Eagles game. He's had bad games. Every quarterback has bad. Patrick Mahomes has had bad games. Every quarterback has bad games. Nobody has a perfect season. Now, some people have better seasons than others, but for me, I'm looking at you look at his stats this year. I mean, the dude's already got 55 rushing touchdowns as a quarterback. That's ridiculous. He's only been playing since 2020, full time since 2021. You look at last year's stat. He had his best last year. This year was his best QB rating because people love fantasy football focus and QB rating, except when it doesn't help their argument, right? 103 rating, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2,900 yards. But he had 630 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, and that's a lot, right? So my thing of bringing that up is the Eagles were a run-first team. So everybody knew that. So if you're on a run-first team, can you have a 5,000-yard passer and a 2,000-yard runner? I don't think that's ever been done. Can you have a 4,500-yard passer and 2,000? I don't think that's ever been done. I could be wrong on that. But when I'm looking at, the Eagles, the biggest thing I hear is like they have a great offensive line. Can we put the rest now that not everybody could do the tush push? We saw with Allen trying to do it in KC. Not everybody could do the tush push, and not every quarterback can squat 600 pounds. Okay. Certain people don't want to get hurt, and I get that. Certain teams can't do the tush push, and they've tried to do it. So there is a skill to it. And they'll look at his 14 touchdowns and be like, well, he's got the tush push. I'm like, well, okay. You know what I mean? Then stop it. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, that was not the most competitive Super Bowl, but for me, I liked it as an Eagles fan because it was a statement Super Bowl, and I feel like that was. I'm a big believer in you got to beat the champ to be the champ, right? And the Chiefs were the clear champ. If the Bills won and they beat them, I'd be just as happy. But I'm glad they got to play the Chiefs because I wanted to play the champs. You know what I mean? I didn't want to play. I didn't want us to get the equivalent of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in football. No offense, Bills. I'm just saying that's who the Phillies had to play to win the World Series in one year. And I was like, yeah, I liked it, but I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff. I think people need to watch games and kind of pull back when they look at these quarterbacks and what they expect from them. It doesn't always have to be pretty to make a win. When you're a run-first team, you're not going to have a guy that throws for a ton of yards, and receivers might get frustrated, but they still won. Yeah, I want to ask you guys that. What do we think about A.J. Brown's comments this week? Did you guys read those comments?
I heard them, I guess, when Gene was reading them off or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I heard him.
Yeah.
Me personally, I look at it as he's a hungry guy. I don't look at that as a negative. I mean, what you say and what you do on the field are two different things. And this is the beauty in Sirianni. They say, well, you're a culture guy, manage it. Well, you can't give Sirianni blame for all the failures and none of the gravitas for the success. I think AJ Brown is not different from any receiver. If you think Jerry Rice wasn't a diva, you're sadly mistaken. I don't think it's a big deal. What do you guys think?
I mean, same thing I said last night. I don't think it's I don't think it's anything. There are some players. Listen, and this is the worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario, AJ Brown is just not a team guy. He's just not. He loves getting MVPs. He loves getting single season records, most catches, most yards. He's that type of player. Man, it doesn't suck to have that guy on your team. That's a worst case scenario. I agree with Eugene. Godfrey. I kind of feel like it was like him saying like, yo, I'm hungry. I need more. I want more. That's how I took it. Like I said, worst case scenario.
How dare you call me Gene? I know Dan Campbell isn't a good coach.
And Jory's comment about the purple birds, I feel the same way about the Bills fans. That's all I've seen on my timeline is like Bills fan pages, and that's Facebook like trying to egg me on, like showing me the algorithm the other way. Just Bills fans being like, oh, I'm so happy the Chiefs lost. The Chiefs shouldn't be there. It should be us. No, it shouldn't. It was never supposed to be you, ever at all.
No. And what's funny is their defense is built where they're going to force turnovers if you get ahead. And when they played the Ravens, they forced turnovers, and that was a lot closer game. Their defensive players made plays, right? That punch out, that Peanut Tillman punch out they did the Andrews. But guess what? The Chiefs didn't make those type of mistakes, man. And you can't play with the Chiefs and keep the game close. You can't do that. You get burned 9 times out of 10. You know what I mean? And it just makes sense to me. So I don't know, man. What do you think, Gardy, about the AJ Brown comments?
I thought that it was perfectly fine. Like, we've seen guys say, like, winning a Super Bowl isn't, everything to me, and kind of similar comments along that vein. And what I kind of took away from it is, like, AJ Brown's a guy that just wants the football. He wants to dominate, and you want guys like that on your team. I think it just kind of shows how hungry he is and how he just kind of strives to be better. So I didn't have a problem with that because AJ Brown dominating a game leads to winning football. It's not like he's disrupting the offense to try to go get his target. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but that's also due in part to I've seen AJ Brown's version of dominating, and he's winning football games doing it.
I have deja vu, Godfrey. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Terrell Owens.
I love Terrell though, but you go ahead. I think I know where you're going on this, but go ahead.
No, I mean that's what it was. Like Terrell Owens was a player you wanted on your team. Yes. Nobody outside of the Philadelphia Eagles or the Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers liked Terrell Owens. But
he brought his lunch pail every day to work.
You're right. And he scored touchdowns, and he's one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game. I mean, that's how I felt about AJ Brown's comments, and that's how I feel about AJ Brown in general.
I have Terrell Owens top 3 wide receiver all time.
When he goes to the press conference and they're like, "Yo, why didn't you win the game?" And he says stuff like, "They didn't throw me the ball," or "I don't, whatever." Like, no, ideally you don't want the type of guy on your team, or like you don't want guys on your team saying that stuff. But if they're producing,
so that's the thing too. Like I don't get why people get upset when players give them their honest opinion too. Like, I get annoyed by that. Like, what do they want these guys to do? Their social media, they talk to you. You want them to be a politician? Fine, they could be a politician. But I feel like this dude wanted to be a Super Bowl MVP, and that's what he was saying, and he didn't. And that's probably the expectations he had. This guy's reading books on the sideline, which is kind of hilarious. That guy's become like a #1 author because of AJ Brown. And to me, they managed that perfectly. Look, I'll give you perception is reality, right? When you look at all the receivers all time, Jerry Rice obviously is #1, even with Stickum, but we'll put him #1. Number 2, a lot of people will actually say #1 is Randy Moss, and I say no, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why. Randy Moss abandoned his team multiple times. Terrell Owens never, ever did that. Patriots, the Vikings, he had a short stint with the Titans. He did okay with the 49ers. And what am I missing another team here? I don't know. The Raiders, right? Mm-hmm. And I know the Jamar Russell situation was pretty frustrating for him. But, people will say to you, Randy's better than T.O. I disagree. Randy wasn't better than T.O. because Randy didn't play all the football he could have played because of himself, not injuries, because of himself. And that's part of the game. That's the mental aspect of it, because T.O. was a pain in the ass, but when you got him on that field, he wanted to win at all costs. That dude broke his leg and made it back to have a Super Bowl type MVP performance against the Patriots in 2004. And that he gives you everything he has. He doesn't get in trouble off the field. He's not getting arrested. He's not doing stupid shit. He's a little loud and boisterous, but guess what? The dude plays and he loves the game. I'll take a guy like that anytime on my football team. And the same thing with AJ Brown. Like, yeah, man, he says some stuff that's dumb sometimes, but he's not going to levels where like he's disrupting the team. Like, I don't know, modern day example would be Deontay Johnson got cut multiple times this year. Like, there's other guys that will do that. Kadarius Toney, that guy, and even he was being a bitter piece of crap and putting a tweet out. Like, that dude, when you talk about a waste of talent, like, that guy is his own worst enemy. So to me, AJ Brown's comments,
we give the Giants for that chump.
Yeah. How much did you guys give? A third rounder?
Third round?
I would say they fleeced you, but you guys had him against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and he did give you a nice punt return there that kind of helped win that game. So it might have been worth it in my opinion, but I just, I don't have a problem with AJ Brown. I really don't have a problem with them. That's just kind of how the receivers that's how they are, man. Receivers are like that. They want a ball. And it's frustrating probably for a receiver because your production is tied directly to the quarterback.
Yep.
But he was injured for three games. The one he sat and he still had a pretty good season. So Devontae Smith, not everybody's going to be like, the Slim Reaper and just be this quiet assassin. He's an emotional man. I agree. And listen, that's these dudes are like that, man. That's what makes them driven to make it to the next level, guys. They're not just going to beat this meat guy in the corner that's just like, oh man, this guy gets out of bed, he runs a 4.040. Like, nah, man, this dude, that's how they're built. You know what I mean? You got to have strong personality.
I would say one other guy who was real special in that game I wanted to shout out. What a game from Josh Sweat. There was a while where I thought he was going to be Super Bowl MVP. He was just that destructive. That dude's going to get paid some big bucks this coming off season.
I have a theory about that, but I don't know if they're going to overpay him. But I do remember when the Eagles signed him to an extension, Eagles fans were like, why are we wasting money on that guy? And I'm going to tell you, I was like, it wasn't a huge contract, but I was like, I think Josh Sweat, though, has gotten better. Vic Fangio has done a hell of a job with this defense, right? I mean, look at the guys the Eagles hit on these one-year contracts. Zach Bond, I hope they keep him. That guy's been a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Sweat, he's gotten the most out of him. I think Jalen Carter is just an animal. And, they were able to pull all that off with signing Bryce Hupp, who's still on the back of a milk carton missing. That dude got the Shady McCoy ring. He got the LaShawn McCoy ring, man. He was just there. He's like, yeah, I got my ring. Got my ring. You know what I mean? That's what DeAndre Hopkins thought he was going to get. He thought he was going to get that Shady McCoy ring. He thought he was just going to sneak in there and be like, I got it. He was so salty and bitter. What do you guys think about DeAndre Hopkins' comments after the game? You're like,
that guy.
I think the people looked into it way too much.
What he said?
So DeAndre Hopkins makes it to his first Super Bowl, arguably one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game. Top 10. Would we agree?
Top 15, top 10. He's around there.
Yeah, top 15, top 10. So makes it to a well-deserved Super Bowl. During that week, the only question that the Super Bowl media could ask DeAndre Hopkins is about the refs and multiple questions about that. They asked it to Pat, they asked it to Kelsey, they asked it to DeAndre. So after the game, DeAndre said, y'all aren't asking questions about the refs now, are you? That's it. That's all it was. And that's crazy for anybody to assume that DeAndre Hopkins, who's been in the league, who's not a guy who runs his mouth, who not a guy who is outspoken, a guy who keeps to himself, well behaved, other than that, incident with D'Angelo Hall, in training camp. Mm-hmm. Other than that situation, DeAndre Hopkins is really about to sit up there after they lost 40 to 22 in a garbage time touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins really sat there and said, no questions about the refs, insinuating that the refs had, that the refs had altered the outcome of that game somehow.
Yeah, I always err on the side of the refs not. People always say that. Even Gene hates
I fear
this,
God.
but, even in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs 2 years ago, did I think it was a shitty call in the game? Yes. Do we know if the Eagles still would have won? No, we don't know that. But were there plays the Eagles left on the field that could have prevented that from being a situation? Yes, there was. And that's the thing that a lot of fans don't like to see when they say that about the Chiefs. I will admit, though, when that A.J. Brown call happened, I was like, here we go. And I had to calm myself. I'm like, here we go. And then that one they called on Justin Reed, I'm like, there's the makeup call. I was waiting for the makeup call. That was the makeup call because that was questionable as well. I'm like, we're even. Let's play. We got a clean slate here. I mean, and I think, I was like, really, guys? Like, of all Super Bowls, you're gonna pull that call like then and there. You could have, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think I'm not a believer. Can we talk about that? I want to talk. I am so annoyed by non-football fans that don't know the sport saying the game's fixed. Don't watch it. We don't want you around. Go away. Go away.
Yeah.
It's not WWE. You don't know shit about football. You're annoying, and I don't want you in my circle. I don't like you. I hate you. How about that? Because here's the thing. Let's think about this logically. The NFL prints money, by the way. They can take a shit in the middle of a town square somewhere and say it's a Thursday night football game and make a couple $100 million on it. All right, that's the truth. We know it's the truth. I've seen overseas the fever that even people in Europe have for the game, and it's not even their national game. I've been there. I've experienced it, right? And the Eagles, watching them, people will say that, and especially it became more prevalent with the whole Swift and Kelsey and Chiefs thing, and I was just like, please go away. And it's not true, because think about it. There's legalized gambling now, right? This isn't the 70s. This isn't Pete Rose, and if they were caught scripting the game, because these are state-run organizations, these sports books, in the most part, they would sue the crap out of them. And it's a possible fixed game. Refs can make bad calls. Now, here's the thing I'll give someone. Could you get to the refs? I think that's possible. But the one thing I know about the NFL security team is they know stuff before the cops do. That's how I know. And that's how good their security team is. And the thing about this is, do I think that's happened? Do I think it could happen with the refs? Possibly, but that's where the NFL needs to step in and maybe overpay these refs and make them full-time employees, because people talked about that all the time. But, the NFL will catch you gambling, maybe not even on your team, on the property, and they have that data somehow and suspend you. It's happened multiple times. You're going to tell me they're not watching? Now, when I look at the NBA, they had a guy on the Toronto Raptors, I forget his name, that's banned lifetime from the game because he was shaving. What was his name?
Jonte Porter.
Yeah, he was shaving prop bets and going under on them, and people were betting them outside of the game, right? So if that's the case, you've seen it in other sports, and basketball has had a problem with that. You want to talk about a sport that's fixed? Let's talk about a game where they award free points. Let's talk about that. Oh, there's a foul. Let's talk about the amount of foul shots that you get when you're the home team versus the away team. Let's talk about that. Except in certain games involving the Celtics. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But, or let's talk about college basketball. See, the thing with football is it's such a physical sport. I don't know how you could do that unless you get to the kicker. And people make so much money. Even the low-level guys that make a team make enough money. I'm sorry, man. I just don't see it about it being fixed. And a lot of people say that more so than they did maybe 5 years ago, because you put in a shitty bet through your sports book that didn't hit, and you're pissed that your shitty ass bet didn't hit. And when you made your fucking bullshit 15-team parlay that you put $10 on, and then you got screwed out of the two parlays you needed to get 15. Let me give you some news here. You're a loser because, one, there's a reason why they give you those odds on that, because they know you're not going to hit that 15 parlay. And you know what I always say to someone when they finally hit it, when they put their jerk off dollar on it? I go, where'd you get weak? You should have put $50 on it. So here's my thing. Like, with these parlays, and I'm an avid gambler. I gamble on football, and I have the receipts. I'll make my educated bets. I mean, I bet the Chiefs to lose by 9 points to the Eagles, and people are like, "You're nuts." I'm like, "We'll see," but you know what? If I lost that, I wasn't going to chase it, and that's where gambling has permeated through the sport so much, because people bet on football the most, that their bullshit bets and opinions now become fact instead of fiction. And I know I'm right, because that's if you really look at it and you look at someone's profile, oh, I see, they're a Bills fan, they're this fan, they're that fan, right? It's concerning the Chiefs, but yeah, you could turn $1 into $5K. Yeah, it's not real. You'll hit it, and you'll hear those guys that talk about hitting it, but you'll never hear about their 1,000 other losses that they never hit, because that's reality. I've tried that, man. If it was that easy, none of us would be working fucking full-time jobs. We'd be out here like Biff Tannen in Back to the Future, fucking making future bets and making all the money in the world. You know what I mean? And tell me I'm wrong. Chase over here would have an organization as big as the WWE. He'd be funding it with his sports betting.
Heard that. Wish I didn't hear that, but I heard that.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm right, because this shit is just crazy to me. Like, if you think the sport's fixed, why do you watch it? Like, I don't get that. Why?
It's become the trendy kind of reasoning for your team losing. It's rigged against your team and all that. That's basically all it is. It's like when you watch, you'll watch gamers who will lose. They'll say stream sniper. Like there's all these trendy terms that people love to use to kind of, counteract why they lost or their team lost. That's all it is. Like the whole Super Bowl logo thing. People love looking at that. I love how the NFL now has like made it like multicolored, so now everybody's like freaking out, like, oh, which team is it now? It's like it's way too deep to get in to like, looking at it, dissecting the color, picking the team that matches the color, and then going, oh, that's who's going to be in Super Bowl. And then when it happens, they go, see, it's scripted. It's like, no, it is what it is. I don't get into it. Like if the Patriots lose, I just go, hey, they didn't play well enough. They lost to a better team. Keep it moving. I don't sit there and go, well, the ref missed this call, that call, and that call, so we got screwed because it's scripted. Like, no, I agree with CJ. It's like it's a loser mindset.
The Gatorade bet, you're a sucker if you bet on the Gatorade. Like you're a sucker. You just I don't know, man. Go play the lottery. At least you get a higher return.
I would love for them to do the clear colored, like the white Gatorade. That would just make my
gotcha, bitch. It's sugar free. You know what I mean? that would be the best. I mean, look at someone said, I'm sorry, but didn't Dan Snyder, who is the owners of the Washington Redskins, and Calvin Ridley and JMO get caught gambling? They did, but was it on their game? I don't know if it was on the games they played in, and they got caught gambling on company property. Dan Snyder, I don't remember, but I'm going to assume that that's a thing. But he can't affect the outcome of games. There are way more important things. People get ripped off on a daily basis. They would rather be distracted by Vegas NFL. I agree, CJ. I agree. I mean, we could go on another diatribe on that, but I agree with. There was a question I wanted to ask you guys, and I can't remember, and it drove me crazy. But you talk about the colors, Kyle, and you know what? I was a little offended. I was on the Fanatics website looking at Eagles championship gear, and they got the championship belt. But you know what? I think they expected the Chiefs to win because that fucking leather's red. I'm like, I'm not buying this bullshit. It's got Eagles logos on it and it's red. Where have we ever had red? I'm like, why am I buying this belt? I'm like, you sell it in red. So, I think, and by the way, that guy, Nick Wright, he can kiss my beanbag. Yeah. And CJ, you're right. I'm getting shit off the chest right now. I can say it from my chest right now because I'm cashing in. Nick Wright with his Chiefs banners that he got and all that. I was like, you know what, Nick, you can kiss my ass. Those dudes right there, I don't like, not because of their opinion, because they're playing all of us for suckers because they're creating fake outrage because they know people are going to respond and say, hey, you were wrong. Guys like that, I don't respond to them. Let them die in obscurity.
That's how sports fans are. Like I said, CJ did the exact same thing to me. Went and commented on the video 24 hours after. That's why, go tell Nick Wright. Go tell Colin Cowherd. I don't care if you if I was wrong about, yes, I thought the game was going to be closer. I didn't know we were going to get blown out by 30 plus points, 20 or 18, however much it was. And that was another thing too, I was listening to, like, I get it. Wire to wire is really Philly heavy, right? I get it. Totally cool. I don't have a problem with it. And I want to preface this by saying, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Jalen Hurts. I like Saquon Barkley. I like Howie. I like Nick Sirianni. Bro, I love brash people. I'm a pro wrestling fan. I've been a pro wrestling fan my entire life. I love brash. I always have. I grew up in Missouri, guys. It's real conservative over here. Okay. There was a lot of shut up, boy, and just play stuff growing up.
That boy shit would piss me off.
I love the Richard Shermans. I love Nick Sirianni. What I don't like is I don't like and I'm going to come to the defense of my team. Last night, I heard two guys on here that are Philadelphia fans say it was extremely silly that the Chiefs scored garbage time points.
I don't agree with that.
That they should have, that they Gene even made the comment that they were scumbags, and I like, really, you're upset that the Chiefs scored garbage time points, that Patrick Mahomes threw a bomb pass because you wanted the Eagles to win 40-0. Like what?
Yeah,
That is hands down the dumbest thing I have heard on. I'll use the term. It was stupid. And like when you say stuff
I
like
have
that,
to
I'm
agree
just
with
like,
you.
what? Are you out of your mind?
Well, you saw me in the comments, Chase.
Too, because like, and I'll go back to Godfrey's point about the game being rigged. Like, I give Gene shit every single time he would jump in the chat and be like, "This is why people get upset about the Chiefs and the thing." Well, what are people upset about? They're upset about the games being rigged. That's what people claim they're upset about. Is that the refs are rigging the games for the Chiefs. So, what are you saying when you said that this is what people are talking about? Oh, well, I'm not saying they're rigging the games. I'm just saying that this is what people are talking about. Okay, we'll pick a side, man. The other thing is like,
people get two-sided on that type of stuff. It's crazy.
Exactly. So the other thing is the Mahomes thing. Like, oh, I can't stand Mahomes. He's so arrogant. I'm not going to sit here and listen to Philadelphia fans talk shit on my quarterback like for being arrogant when you got Nick Sirianni on the sideline over there. When you got Howie Rosen walking up to Philadelphia fans going, fuck, you forgive me? Well, fuck you, and fuck you. To Philadelphia fans. And you're going to tell me that my quarterback's arrogant? And you're going to talk about scumbags and garbage time points?
Yeah, I like Patrick Mahomes, but I will say he does sound like Kermit the Frog sometimes. All right. And one thing I thought was funny, when they were celebrating the Super Bowl win in the city, people were burning Kermit the Frogs in the street. I was like, I didn't see that one coming. But I like Patrick Mahomes. I do agree with you. Xavier, I kind of knew that would come. That was part of my prediction. I thought there'd be some garbage points because they had to pass toward the end. And Nick Sirianni gave some of the backup run
to protect Mahomes' legacy. I assure you that while they're getting beat 40-6 or whatever it was,
he's a gamer though. Andy's not going to take him out.
Andy looked at Patrick Mahomes and goes, "We can't let them ruin your legacy, kid. You got to go out there and score more touchdowns."
Dude's not even 30 yet, right? He's not even 30, right? Like that's what cracks me up with that. And I agreed in the chat wildly on that. Listening to that show, for me, like Patrick Mahomes has enough cachet where, like, if Andy's like, "I want to take you out," Andy would go, he would go like, "Nah, man, I want to stay in," and Andy would let him stay in. Like the dude wants to play football. He's a gamer. Like, you ever notice that? Patrick Mahomes isn't a dude that's like flamboyant and all out there and like trying to make himself. He likes football. That's what he lives for. He's a pretty unassuming dude. I think the fact that he's with Brittany Mahomes still, was that his high school sweetheart or college sweetheart?
Yeah,
I don't know.
They've been together since they were 14.
Yeah, the fact that he's still with her,
and that's a media thing. Like, I get it. Like, like Kyle knows. Giselle used to get on social media and run her mouth. Here's what, and I mean this I'm not throwing shade at anybody here. If you want to make it in sports media, nobody cares what Jackson Mahomes is doing. You want to do it when you get your TV contract, Gardy. When Fox Sports calls you, baby, and they tell you, Gardy, we're ready to put Garden the 3 on Fox Sports. Then you can go run your mouth about stupid stuff like Brittany Mahomes and Jackson Mahomes. Nobody cares about that stuff. That's not sports. Yeah. Brittany Mahomes isn't lacing up cleats. So and I get it. Like, she's annoying, but Patrick Mahomes signed a contract with Kansas City when we drafted him. He started the 15, the Mahomes Foundation for Troubled Youth. He became a minority owner of the Kansas City Royals. Him and Brittany Mahomes.
I forgot about that.
Him and Brittany Mahomes brought a women's soccer team to Kansas City. The first women's soccer stadium is in Kansas City. So, bro, like, I'm not like.
Is it true that he only spent $10,000 to become a minority owner? Like that bought him 49% of the Royals, $10,000. Is that true?
No, it wasn't. He's not. I don't think he's a minority owner. There are also minority owners in Sporting KC, Kansas City's soccer team. Like, my thing is like, as a guy that grew up in the Midwest and I still live in the Midwest, I'm a Midwest boy. Like, I'm not about to listen to two East Coast guys trash my quarterback and be like, "Oh, he's arrogant. He's too arrogant." What? You got Howie Rosen and Nick Sirianni on your team, and you're going to tell me that my quarterback's arrogant?
Let's say
well, it's one of those things in Philly, especially. I'll give you a great example. Bryce Harper, we all disliked him until he became a Philadelphia Philly, right? So you're like, oh, he's arrogant until he's on your squad. Then he's just
Oh,
confident and he's sure of himself, right? And
I
I
did that
always
with
like Bryce Harper, but people that's the best example I can give. Now people they love Bryce Harper, and I do too as a Philly fan. But with these sports figures that are like that, I wouldn't categorize Mahomes as an arrogant guy. I don't even know if I've ever heard him talk shit. The only thing I think people don't like about him, and where I take umbrage is, I think he's the best quarterback. And all of the players do this, including Brady when he was a player. He knows when the refs like him, and he's like, yo, check that out. Manning did it. All of them did it. And that I dislike. But overall, to say he was playing for legacy, I don't think anybody's going to remember those 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. No one said, the Chiefs, I would say the Chiefs got beat badly. However, they did score 22 points to the Eagles 44. Or no, 40, whatever it was. Let me check the score again. Okay. And it was 40, right? I mean, I want to ask you guys this question, though, because I like that you brought up Nick Sirianni. I want my vote right now. Who's the better coach, Dan Campbell or Nick Sirianni?
As soon as he said Nick Sirianni, it took me a second, but as soon as he said Nick Sirianni, I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl twice. He's won a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, duh. Nick Sirianni's a better coach than Dan Campbell.
Yep. Guys, what do you say about that? Kyle, Guardy 3.
I mean, you kind of got to look at everything in front of you, like Chase said. Sirianni will probably get under your skin with some of his antics from this past season, but he's got a ring. Dan Campbell doesn't, and
Dan Campbell. Is that a Lions fan in the chat?
No, he's actually a Packers fan.
Oh my God.
Dan Campbell has to replace a coaching staff right now. So you might even learn a little bit more about him. Like, I like Dan Campbell. I think, Dan Campbell being like in your face and an intense guy, I like that about him. So I'm not going to say like it's a wide gap between the two, but maybe prisoner of the moment, I'd have to give it to Sirianni right now. He's one.
So what about you, Guardy 3?
I'd say I think right now, I think I would have to give it to Sirianni. I still think it's a pretty close gap. I think Campbell, could still catch him. If he gets his own Super Bowl, it's going to be a good conversation. But
that's the gavel. It's 4-0. We'll put Gene in because he's not here. That's 4-1. Order in the court. Order in the court.
But oddly enough, I'd probably rather have Dan Campbell coach my team than Sirianni.
Okay. But you still put Sirianni ahead of him as of right now. This could change.
I have to give him credit for getting the Super Bowl. Like, I have to do that.
This is part of being an Eagles fan. And there's times where I was like, I question it, but people wanted to. He was 2 catches away from having a record number of wins this season. Most records of franchise history. What wins in a single season franchise history. The only Eagles quarterback ever to get to 2 Super Bowls. The second one to ever win one. His road record is impeccable. They ripped off a lot of wins, and guess what? Dan Campbell would have won a Super Bowl with the Eagles roster. Yeah, it's cool. And if my grandmother had balls, she'd be my grandfather too. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, yeah. We could all do the what if, but I'm sorry, but yeah, maybe so. Or Dan Campbell would have had a moment like he had an NFC Championship game against the 49ers 2 years ago and decided to do that. But he would have, because maybe Jared Goff is in his quarterback, who I think is a good quarterback. But to me, where my vote is, guys. I mean, the guy, for me, it's like
Dan Campbell's 2-2 in the postseason. Nick Sirianni 6-3.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowl appearances. If for me, the differentiator is this: he's shown the ability to close. People would ask me, "Do you think Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell's better?" I think Dan Quinn's better than Dan Campbell, personally. But people think I would crazy that. Look at what Dan Quinn's done with the team. Dan Quinn wasn't a bad coach in the Atlanta Falcons. He had a bad offensive coordinator, and you know about that, Kyle. They torpedoed his ass, and look how that team responded to him. That was a dead franchise. That franchise was dead for years. He took them all the way to the NFC Championship in this year. Went and beat a number 1 seed on the road. So, it's subjective. I think Dan Campbell's a great coach, but a lot of us forget, until the year before last year, he was hanging on by the hair of his chinny chin, and they went, I think 8-8 or 9-8 that year. Remember when I know you remember this game, Cardi, where they beat the Packers in the last year of Aaron Rodgers on the last game of the season. I know you remember that game vividly. But I mean, it could change, but at the same time, Eagles fans were saying stuff like, "Oh, let's get rid of him." He doesn't. What does he do? And here's the thing that I won't stand for: you can't say the man gets all the blame when everything goes wrong and gets none of the credit when everything goes right. Is Nick Sirianni Doug Peterson? That would be Nick Sirianni. I said on this show, as you remember, Kyle, that I thought Mike Vrabel was a better coach than Doug Peterson, even though Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, because Super Bowls aren't everything, but they do factor into it. And the reason why I thought that is because look how it played out in Jacksonville. We can make excuses for him, but he picked his coaching staff, and the same jerks that sucked when he demanded to keep them in Philadelphia are the same ones that sucked when he took them to Jaguars. And apparently Trevor Lawrence is all world. I have stock in him in my dynasty league, so I'm hoping he is. But it didn't really turn around. So you got to go Nick Sirianni over Doug Peterson. I like Dougie P. He did the job, but he has a propensity to have his teams have slow starts, and it showed in probably 4 of his 6 seasons as a coach.
We got a lot of free agency questions or like off-season questions in the chat.
Let's do it, man. I got plenty of time. I'm off work tomorrow. I'm going to a parade, baby.
No, absolutely. We got a solid 14 minutes. We got and one at 8 o'clock, but we got time to go through these, so let's cook. Debo's next team: Steelers, Pats, Panthers. Where do y'all think Debo Samuel ends up this offseason?
Birmingham Stallions. No. I think Debo's a good player, but I think they overpaid for him, and I think he's the type of person that has to be in a very specific offensive system. Now, if the coach is talented enough, like if he went on the Chiefs, I'd be a little scared of that. The Chiefs would make very good use of that man. If he went,
my bold prediction for the offseason, the way that they get Travis Kelce to come back next year, not that they need to, but he's good to have. I mean, whether he's splits with somebody, whatever the case may be. I think the conversation is that the Chiefs go back and get Tyreek Hill.
Oh my God, that would be ridiculous. And you know what?
I think listen, you watch what the Chiefs did after they got embarrassed by Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. And you go back to Brett Veach being embarrassed in the final playoff game of Alex Smith's career, where Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown pass to himself because of Darrelle Revis. This is going to hit Kansas City. That big, huge blowout loss. And I honestly think that Andy Reid and Brett Veach sit down with Travis Kelce and go, we're gonna go get Reek. We're gonna see what Miami wants for him, and we're gonna go back.
Mike McDaniels is such an overrated coach, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Genius, my ass. So Steelers, Pats, or Panthers? I think none of them, John. I don't know about you guys. I think the Steelers, personally, they're trying to figure out their quarterback situation. And I think the last thing they need is another receiver that has trouble getting the ball enough in there that creates a temper tantrum. The Panthers, I don't know if that's good for the development of Bryce Young. I feel like the Pats, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, that's a guy where like he's a receiver that has running back wear on him.
I don't know where
they restructure to CJ's comment because of salary cap. Mm-hmm. They restructure Pat and Chris Jones in the offseason. And if Travis Kelce stays and he restructures, they're going to have over $70 million in cap space. So
Atlanta or New England. I mean, Atlanta would do something stupid like that. So I would see something like that. That's, I don't even know what Atlanta is, a whole other hot wax mess. I don't, that when we talk about a poverty franchise, I'm sorry, man. Like, and is your Chick-fil-A even open on a stadium on Sunday? I mean, I don't even know. I'm upset about that. Anyway, I think it's the Chick-fil-A curse.
Just walking through, the
it's
dome.
Sunday football. I want some strips.
All these concession stands are open, and then Chick-fil-A
closed. Yeah.
Sorry, it's an exclusive to the concerts. If Bono or Sting comes to Atlanta, we'll open up Chick-fil-A on a Thursday night.
Yeah, off topic. I like this question. If I was watching First Take, if you needed a QB for 1 year, who would you sign? Aaron Rodgers or Sam Darnold? Wow.
Aaron Rodgers.
Can I retire? I mean, yeah. I All right.
Where's Aaron Rodgers going this year?
I think Vegas.
I would.
That's a great question. Yeah.
To Anthony's question, I think that it would be poetic if Minnesota went and if Aaron Rodgers called Minnesota and said, "Hey, me and Devontae are ready to come."
Well, you know, it would be ironic if he ended up in Vegas and Devontae's on another team and he just got traded to go to the Jets.
Yeah.
That would be.
My thing about Aaron Rodgers,
I love the Minnesota pick.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that'd be epic. But here's my thing about that. I truly think that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the skill left anymore. I think people are looking past that. I don't think he's the same quarterback anymore. And I think that was part of the problem. Wasn't entirely the Jets offense had talent on it. I don't think it was entirely offensive line. And to me, as great as he's supposed to be, he just looked like dog shit and he was just getting through the motion. So if he goes to the Raiders, maybe because they'll let him do more of his thing and he can coexist with a Pete Carroll. My pick is Las Vegas. So would I rather have Sam Darnold than Aaron Rodgers? Man, that is like picking like Alpo, just two different flavors. I mean, I don't.
Aaron Rodgers is not that bad right now. Not that bad.
Say
He's still Aaron Rodgers.
It
have to be respectful.
I might take Darnold. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm leaning for that too.
Aaron Rodgers just locker rooms.
You've seen Darnold stealing.
I can't deal with Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, you've seen Darnold stealing. Yeah, man, I'm gonna take Aaron Rodgers by edge because Darnold just like I don't know, man. I can't do it. I mean, he had a great season, but you want to talk about guys that I heard like negative signs coming off their paycheck as they played through the playoffs. It was Sam Darnold. I was like, that's $5 billion right there. That's another $5 million. That's another $2 million. Yep. Because if he was able to win a playoff game, he was going to cash in. Now I think he'll get a decent contract. But by the way, the Steelers, their problem is Arthur Smith is their offensive coordinator. I don't know how you approve on that. So that's a whole other conversation. But
I think Aaron Rodgers would strangle Arthur Smith in like 5 minutes trying to work with him.
Well, you see, Deshaun Elliott said hell no to him. They're like, keep his ass retired. Did you see that? The cornerback off of the Steelers. I don't think that locker room wants him.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Damien did bring up the Colts because the Colts, Chris Ballard came out and said like Richardson hasn't proved he can play 17 games when asked about bringing in another quarterback.
Oh, someone asked. I wanted to answer this too. Yeah. Man, that Colts, someone theorized with me today that Rodgers would end up on the Colts because he's crazy enough to sign him, the owner, have them do it. And I think they're probably looking to move along with Anthony Richardson. What a bad pick that was at 4. I remember we were on during the draft. I was like, damn, 4? I'm like, okay, that dude's a project. I still think Rodgers may be an upgrade, but I know you're going to think I'm crazy when I say this. I don't think right now, as it sits, there's that big of a difference between a Flacco and a Rodgers. I'm sorry. People might think I'm nuts, but I just don't see that big a difference right now. Overall, yes. But right now as it sits, until he shows me, I just think like, man, football is so, if you lose like a step of that much caliber, it could change your game. The best way I could show you that is the Chiefs' current backup, Carson Wentz, man. When he got injured, he lost just a half a step and it changed his entire game because he had no escapability left.
I'm gonna have to agree with CJ. If you put him behind a legit O-line with Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams, because that was my scenario.
And Jordan Addison. Don't forget Jordan Addison.
He goes to Minnesota with Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, how pissed would you be if that happened?
How pissed would I be?
Would you throw up?
No, because I've seen this
Devontae
before.
Adams and Justin Jefferson.
I've seen this before. It's just Brett Favre 2.0, but with better weapons. Like
I would predict the same thing. He would make it to the NFC Championship and lose in overtime.
Would you projectile vomit if he, let's just say he is in Vikings purple, he comes to Lambeau, throws a game-winning touchdown and does the discount double check right there in the end zone, and he just looks at the crowd. He's like, "Yeah, check this out." Would you projectile vomit if that happened?
No, here's the thing, right? Because I want Aaron Rodgers to succeed. I want to see him end his career on a really high note.
But he's on your
A,
rival, though.
a lot of
That's
Packers fans,
wild.
a lot of Packers fans want to hate on him, but
Yeah.
even if he went to Minnesota, at the end of the day, I've just such a strong love for what he's done for us and the city that would I boo him in the moment and hate him for that game? Yes, but I'll admit, I would be happy
Brett-
to see him succeed. So.
Brett is an absolute sweetheart. Because let me tell you something. In 6 years or 7 years, if Mahomes left Kansas City and went to go play for the Raiders, you would catch me at my house burning Kermit frogs and making voodoo dolls and stabbing them with needles. Promise you.
Yeah,
All that smack I talked about him being a minority owner of the Royals and doing all that stuff. No, it immediately would become F. Patty Mahomes if he went and signed with the Raiders. I'd burn jerseys.
Someone asked about Frank Reich being the OC. Who's going to be the new OC? First off, Kellen Moore, I think you made a bad choice going to that train wreck in New Orleans. You should have stayed here for a year longer and got a different job and did a Ben Johnson, not going to the Carolina Panthers. But okay, sure, go there. They got horrible issues down there. I don't know how you succeed as a coach in that situation, but I understand taking the opportunity as well. You know,
wouldn't you have to have like an assurance of like 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, but he's the type of coach where like I don't even know if it was their first choice, and like it's like okay, I'm getting this, and I'm getting the opportunity, and you know I know head coach opportunities don't come along often. There's only 32 of them, but I think you know I would have liked to see him stay at the Eagles. Now the question was, what will Frank Reich do? And I have to admit, I disagree with Gene last night when he brought this up on Wire to Wire about Frank Reich, and I've come full circle on this. I have to agree with what Gene was saying about the pick, and thinking about it, I think Frank Reich is a good pick for this reason. The same reason why Vic Fangio is a good pick. He's not going to go anywhere. He's going to get his ability because no one's going to revisit Frank Reich as a head coach right now. He's already had his shot. It didn't work out well. I had questions because of how things went with Bryce Young when he was there. Although, you know, I was on the stance of he wasn't really on that side of not liking him, but there was reporting to say otherwise. And I think Frank Reich would be a good, stable offensive coordinator. I am of the ilk that thought Frank Reich's impact on the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles was there, but people made it seem like he was this mastermind of a play caller, and I just had a hard time believing that. But I do think, yeah, he's had 2 shots, and I think he can't be a head coach anymore. So if he's good enough to be offensive coordinator, the organization's comfortable with it, I think the stability is good for Jalen Hurts long term because I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon as a head coach. You know, I feared that with Kellen Moore because I thought he was a talented guy. The way that the locker room talks about Kellen Moore, it seems like a big loss. Jordan Mailata was lamenting over it. He was happy he was going. He's like, New Orleans, you got a good one. They said that he let the players have opinion and space on how to make plays, and that kind of showed as they made adjustments through the season, and it proved its worth in spades. But I think Frank Reich, I have changed my mind, and I think Gene was right. I think Frank Reich is a good replacement if they can get him. The question is, does he want to do it? Because you know, guys like Byron Leftwich, I'm not into it, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Because he won with Brady as the coordinator, right? Okay, he took a piss next to Brady in the urinal. It's the same dudes that like Brandon Staley that took a piss next to Sean McVay. Oh, he's good. I need to see more from Byron Leftwich. I don't want to see an Adam Gase type. And I'm not taking anything away from Leftwich, but you know, when Adam Gase was a coordinator, oh, he's great. Dude, he was coaching Peyton Manning. Give me a break. Right? Mm-hmm. And so in my opinion, you know, I like T. Martin, the QB coach for the Ravens, right? I think he's a good guy that you could bring in and do that. I agree with Gino. I don't want to see an internal promotion because that hasn't seemed to work for the Eagles. Frank Reich's probably the best one. I think, yeah. Yeah, Brandon Staley being a DC lets me know that they're going to immediately fail in New Orleans. When he made that his pick for DC, I was like, wow, okay, we're already sinking the ship, Kellen. Great.
Alrighty. Well, I'll say we do have another show in 20 minutes, so we're probably gonna start wrapping it up here, guys. But we'll definitely be back to answer, you know, more free agency questions. Any last words before you get up on out of here, boys?
Fly Eagles fly, baby. I'm going to a parade tomorrow. You know, I'm glad it finally worked out for the Bird Gang. And football's not fixed, and your Madden roster doesn't matter, nor your shitty parlay bet.
Got anything before we get up on out of here?
I mean, I'm gonna say it on every show until it happens. Mike Vrabel, go get Josh Sweat.
Oh Jesus!
Say
They got
Chase-
money to burn. Go get them.
I don't think I think we might be doing a show next week. I'm not sure. Gene had some things he had to tend to tonight. A lot of things got messed up in the Philadelphia area with Valentine's Day and the parade being on the same day. For me, I'm single, so I could fly anywhere I want. But I would tell you, stay tuned. We might, if not, we're going to probably have a show probably around free agency, I would guess, if that's the next show. If not next week.
Say, Chase, anything for you before we get up on out of here?
No, sir. Other than Tyreek, baby, come home, gang, bitch.
Oh man, I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, it's gonna really help the Chiefs. It's really gonna help them a lot.
Say,
he didn't want to leave. It's just one of those. It was like a CJ Gardner situation.
Oh, fair enough. Catch the And One podcast in 15 at 8 o'clock, so like 19 minutes. Super Bowl's over, so it's almost time for me to become an insufferable Packers fan again. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
You're not bad. You're not insufferable.
I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely appreciate you for tuning in tonight, and we will see you next time.
Dan Campbell's the best coach. He's not the best coach. Nick Sirianni, baby.